All right, it's Wednesday night. You learned about direct objects on Monday. You practiced finding them on Tuesday. And now you're going to learn about indirect objects. And I know I confused a lot of you guys when I called them subject complements. But subject complements are actually a whole big group of things that are found in the predicate part of the sentence. PAs and PNs are two forms of subject complements, and they only follow linking verbs. Direct and indirect objects are also subject complements, but they only follow action verbs, and they're called direct objects and indirect objects. That's just the way it is. It's the English language for you. Joke break. What word allows you to take away 2 letters and get 1 in return? If you watch the end of the video, which you have to do because it's your homework, you will find out the answer. All right, so indirect objects. Open your top flap, or open your indirect object side of your flap, and on the top flap, write, an indirect object is a word or group of words that tells to whom or what an action is performed. Our example here, Jesse told his little cousins the story. Well, to whom did Jesse tell the story? His little cousins. And what did he tell them? The story. So you've got your indirect object of his little cousins and your direct object of story. Sounds confusing, but I'm going to make it super easy for you, I promise. Okay, you don't have to write anything down on this slide, but you do need to know that in order to find an indirect questions, you have to ask yourself 2 questions. These are not the steps. You have more steps, I promise. Number 1, does the sentence have a direct object? You have to have a direct object to have an indirect object. If there is no direct object, there is no indirect object. So don't ever tell me that a sentence has an indirect object without the direct object first. Got it? And then you have to ask to whom, to what, or for whom, or for what was the action done. There's an easier way to do it, but that's just the English language way. I have steps. These steps you need to write down. So you might as well just hit pause right now and write these steps down on the bottom half of your flap. I'm going to read them to you, and then you might want to hit pause. Number 1, read the sentence. Number 2, put parentheses around all the prepositional phrases. There is never a direct object or an indirect object in a prepositional phrase. Number 3, find and underline the verb. Number 4, determine if it is an action verb or a linking verb. An IDO and a DO must follow an action verb. And you have to think, if you can do it, it's an action verb. You can hurry, you can buy, you can get. Those are all action verbs. Don't overdo the linking verbs now. Number 5, determine if there is a DO, because there must be a DO, direct object, for there to be an IDO. Oops, typo, do you see that? That should not be there. And number 6, to whom or what is the action done gives you your IDO. Now, of course, I'm going to show you how this works, but they're really easy steps to follow because there's so much just like finding the direct object. Okay, here we go. Mrs. Clark gave Justin a new pair of shoes for his birthday. I just did step 1. I read the sentence. I have now done step 2. Of shoes is your first prepositional phrase, and for his birthday is your second prepositional phrase. I don't have to worry about those anymore. Nothing of any importance is ever found in a prepositional phrase, except for the object of the preposition. Then I'm going to find the verb. Gave. Gave is indeed an action verb. I can give someone something, so it's an action verb. So there's no PA or PN because it's an action verb, but there could be a direct object and an indirect object. Oh, what did I give? I gave a pair. I know you want to say shoes so bad because a pair sounds stupid, but of shoes is in the prepositional phrase, so I gave a pair. All right? So now you know there's a direct object, so now you can look for the indirect object. Who got the shoes? To whom were they given? Justin. Justin got the new pair of shoes for his birthday. So you've got your verb, your direct object, and your indirect object. Your direct object will always be after your verb, and your indirect object will always be between your verb and your direct object. I promise, always. And there is a picture of Justin. And there's his cool new shoes. Let's hope they make him play a great game of basketball. Indirect objects. An indirect object is never in a prepositional phrase. Nothing is. We all know this. But it can get confusing because the ship's captain gave orders to the crew. We might want to think, well, they were given to the crew, so crew should be the indirect object. First of all, though, what did he give? He gave orders. So orders is your direct object, and your indirect object has to go between your verb and your direct object, and this doesn't. And to is a preposition, so to the crew is a prepositional phrase. It is not an indirect object. But I can make it one just by moving my sentence around a little bit. The ship's captain gave the crew orders. Now I've got my action verb gave. What did he give? Orders. Orders would be my direct object. To whom did he give the orders? The crew. So there is your indirect object. See how that works? Crew is the indirect object. All right, so this is what your note should look like. Notice I got lazy and I just kind of copy and pasted here because I switched up the steps a little bit. This is what you wrote for the definition, and these are your steps. You're going to use them to help you practice because this is on your quiz on Friday, and I know you all want to get a good grade because it's going to be the last quiz of this quarter. All right, so you're going to underline the verb or verb phrase. You can write this in your notebook or on a separate sheet of paper. In fact, you can even turn it in if you want some bonus points on your quiz on Friday. You're going to put DO over the direct object and I over the indirect object, or you can put IDO because I sometimes forget and put IDO. Pam left the waiter with brown hair a tip. Did she tip him $5 for her dinner? Now don't forget to switch this one into a statement. She did tip him $5 for her dinner. The ship's captains gave the crew orders. That should look really familiar. Glover made us some lasagna for dinner. And Felicia threw David, Jane, and Paula slow curveballs. Let's look at the answers. You did pause, right? You're not just copying the answers. That would be bad. Well, I mean, you can do that. I'll never know. But then you're not being assertive in your learning. Do you feel guilty now? All right, number 1. Left is your action verb. What did she leave? A tip. That is your direct object. Who did she leave it for? Waiter. And I forgot, I put with brown hair in parentheses. All right, notice your IDO is in between your direct object and your action verb. She did tip him $5 for her dinner. For her dinner is your prepositional phrase. Did tip is your action verb. What did she tip? Dollars. That's your direct dollars. And who got the dollars? Him. Him is your indirect object. That was a little bit harder. The ship's captain gave the crew orders. There are no prepositional phrases. Gave is your action verb. Orders is your direct object. What did he give? He gave orders. To whom did he give the orders? The crew. Notice once again, your IDO is always between your direct object and your verb. Glover made us some lasagna for dinner. For dinner is your prepositional phrase. Made is your action verb. What did he make? Lasagna. That's your direct object. Who did he make it for? Us. There's your indirect object. Felicia threw David, Jane, and Paula slow curveballs. Threw, there are no prepositional phrases. Threw is your action verb. What did she throw? Curveballs. There's your direct object. David, Jane, and Paula then is your compound indirect object. Hope you did well. It's not that hard. Just remember, indirect object, always between the direct object and the action verb. If there is no direct object, there is no indirect object, I promise. Answer to the joke, alone. See, you get rid of the A and the L? Pretty funny. Okay, stop groaning. Have a great night. See you in the morning.